In this video, we're going to break down how much Nike is going to make off their new Nike Alphafly running shoe. Let's get to it.
Drunk, I've never seen you clearer than now. We're flying high, floating somewhere up in the clouds. We're going out of ourselves, can we?
Yo, what's going on, guys? Wes back with another review. This time I'm going to be going over the Nike Alphaflies, specifically looking at those. Because if you're new to the channel, I'm not a is it worth it channel, because that's the most subjective thing that you can do. You know, any given value is going to be in the person giving over the money. So when we're looking at the Vaporfly or the Alphafly, if you already think that, hey, it's going to be worth $250, then you're just going to go out and do it. All right, first off, when we're talking about this carbon plate running shoe market, we're talking about price points of anywhere from $180 and upwards of $250, which is going to be your Vaporfly and your Alphaflies that are going to be at the top of the market. So I'm using a couple of resources because I want to make it as objective as possible. I want to see if there's any sort of available information as far as the cost breakdown of how much it costs to make a Nike shoe. And then I also want to fill it in with information that comes in from Nike's most recently filed 10K. Now, the fiscal year 2020 ended recently on May 31st, 2020, but that's not available yet. So I'm going to be using older information, but it should still be relevant because year over year, there's not much change. So, searched it, and what I found was a very helpful website on Sole Collector. And the information was provided by a gentleman named Matthew Kish, who writes for the Portland Business Journal. And on here, he attended a workshop at the University of Oregon, which is not only the alma mater of Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. By the way, I Would Read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I've said that on other videos. They did a workshop where they did a cost breakdown of what it would be for a $100 Nike shoe. So here, if we're looking at it, Nike's average cost for a $100 shoe, very, very simplified, which is okay because we're going to be plugging in information. Per shoe cost, factory FOB cost. If you don't know what FOB is, it's free on board. It's an Incoterm, which is where the liability lies when you're shipping a shoe or any sort of equipment. So you've got X-Works, FOB, things like that. You'd have to do more research on your own if you want to know more about that. So this is the cost to make the shoe and ship the shoe. Then you have insurance, which you need, and then duty for customs and whatnot. So landed cost they have here is 57% of the revenue at $28.50. Then down here, you're going to have your selling, general, and administrative costs that need to be accounted for. This is going to also include your research and development. So when we're looking at the Alphafly, we're also looking at the cost to patent the shoe and all the research that was done prior, and the marketing and everything else is going to be enveloped in the SG&A cost. Next, taxes, you got to pay taxes. Profit here, likely it's going to be the net profit, so it's going to be the actual cash left over at the very end after you've made all of these payments. And then here's the $21.50 that is accounted for. Here, they're using markup, so difference between markup and margin. Markup is going to be the dollars that you can actually see that you're making from the overall price versus margin, which is going to give you the amount of money per dollar that you're going to realize from a sale. So here, what we're dealing with on this one is a wholesale price. Now, if you look at their 10K, a majority of what they do is from wholesale only. So that's the figures that we're going to be looking at when I'm looking at the 10K. You're going to get less profit from the wholesale price than you are direct to consumer, because like here, this is unrealized revenue from Nike because you're putting it in stores like Dick's Sporting Goods or Finish Line, Foot Locker, those kind of stores, and they need to make their money and account for their overhead as well. So here, it's an even split, which, you know, I don't think is usually the case. Tends to be maybe a 60-40 split, 55-45, more on that end, with more towards the, well, I guess it depends on whoever's got more leverage here. So, and then they're going to achieve the $100 suggested retail. So this was provided at the business school at University of Oregon. So it gives me a great starting point. So what I did from there was just simply recreate it on Excel. So I'm going to take the different line items and look at the 10K and find the actual percentage cost to give me what the different breakdown is for a $250 shoe. So what I did was Nike Investor Relations. And that's going to take me here to Nike's investor section. Up here, I'm looking for annual reports, 2019 annual report, and there's different documents. There's shareholder letter, which is going to be coming from probably maybe the chief operations officer or the CEO or the CFO, just depends on how the organization decides to make that. And that's going to give kind of a general marketing idea to investors to let them know, hey, this is where we're moving forward. And there's a lot of cool and helpful information in there. What I'm looking for here is actually the 10K. So this right here is what we're looking for. So if you recall back when we were just looking at that worksheet, it was focused on wholesale price only. And I said before that Nike realizes most of the revenue from wholesale. And they do something very interesting that I haven't seen in other 10Ks. And they actually convert what their revenue would be if it was 100% wholesale. So that's really going to help. So a lot of my calculations is trying to extrapolate different data that is given for the overall revenue to figure out how it would only be applied to the wholesale amount. So let's get into it. All these numbers and certain numbers are going to be in comparison to the bottom line, which is going to be the total revenues, and that's gross revenue, not the actual net revenue, that the net income that Nike saw. So that was $39 billion. Now, Nike does something very awesome that really helps me with my math, is that here at this number, 32,550, they've provided the equivalent if 100% of their revenue was only realized by wholesale, which doesn't include the over and above direct-to-consumer lines, because that's going to be just pure profit, gross profit on their behalf. So the good part is I can take the different amounts provided here, which is the wholesale numbers, 25,423 provided here, and the two direct-to-consumer lines, that's going to give me a figure that I can determine a markup on, because what I can do is take the difference between the equivalents, which is the 32,550,000, and I can subtract that from their overall 39,117, and what's left is going to be the amount of gross profit. Then I can take that number, which is 6,567,000, and divide 13,694,000 to give me a 48% markup, which is beautiful. So that's going to tell me the suggested retail markup, and it's going to tell me what the wholesale price is. So here, I used more significant figures to get more accurate. So at 47.96%, and the 52.04% is the wholesale share of the retail price that Nike is getting. That number from the 250 store price is $130.11. So this is the cost that Dick's Sporting Goods and those type of stores are paying Nike. And then everything else is in their pocket, the $119.89. So then I need to know that the cost of goods sold and the gross revenue are going to add up to this $130.11. Cost of goods sold up here is from this number of cost of sales, is how they have it listed, and that's $21,643,000. So I took that number, because even if it's direct to consumer or wholesale price, that's still going to be a percentage of the overall amount. There's going to be no change of cost of sales. So when you take that number, you're going to get that it's 55.33%. So I can take that amount, which is pretty close to the 57% that the University of Oregon provided. And it's specifically the cost that we're looking at to create the Alphafly is going to be about $72. Now, when you're thinking $72 versus $250 that you're paying, there's so much more to that we're going to get into here. The SG&A expenses right here. So right here, it actually just gives me percent of revenue at 32.5%. So there was really no extra math that I was going to do for that. I just simply plugged in 32.5%. So what they're doing, all their marketing, their research and development and everything, $43 of every shoe is going to go directly to that. That's not going into Nike's pocket. So the last little bit is determining the adjustment of the net income. And all I simply did was take the roughly 83% that was applied to the difference between the if everything was wholesale and from the actual revenue, and applied it to the net income that was actually provided at $4 billion. And that gave me $3.3 billion. And to determine an adjusted amount of that percentage, I compared it to the actual bottom line of $39 billion just to try to get rid of that unrealized additional revenue. And it gave me 8.57% of the price. So when we're comparing, 57% was given on the worksheet, 55% was actual, 30% versus 32% here for the SG&A, tax 4% versus 3.60%, which that was only done by subtracting all the given percentages from 100%. Pure profit at net income, 9% versus 8.57%. And then wholesale price, looks like Nike's taking a little more of the chunk, understandable, versus the pure 50-50 split. And this is what we're getting. So our big number here, when Nike releases the Alphafly, we can assume overall, based on averages, that they're making about $11 per shoe, which is crazy. So to wrap this up, the amount of money that Nike's investing versus the amount of money they're receiving from selling at wholesale is about $119 that they're investing into this product. Now they get additional profits, of course, if they do direct to consumer, but overall, that's a pretty satisfactory number that you're going to realize. And I think without a doubt, the performance of the Vaporflies and the Alphaflies are just unmatched at this moment. And that's great from a company that is trying to always be a step ahead of the competition. Because as much as I love to buy from smaller brands like Hoka One, which are going to be my everyday training shoes, when I get to that marathon time, I'm going to want the best time possible using the best equipment possible. So when that Alphafly comes out, you're going to bet that I'm going to get one of those. So again, Nike getting about $11 per $250 pair of shoes that they sell. You know, it's still a large price to pay, but I hope that helps if you're looking at the buying process and wondering, you know, is Nike screwing me over at this cost? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe. That's the best way to support me as I continue doing different breakdowns like this. And I really appreciate your time in watching this. Thank you very much, and go do something awesome. Peace.
Almost like I don't know if it's real, cause when we're doing our thing, we're like wheels that won't stop turning. So take me on a trip, now, trip. Oh.